You're listening to Free Zone Radio.
For Free Zone Radio, I'm Jason Crockett, and this is With Honors Season 2. It used to be fictional names, like Katniss Everdeen, or Winston Smith, or Guy Montag. Now it's Renee, Nicole Good, and Alex Pretti. It used to be dystopian fiction, but now it feels every day like dystopian reality. Since 2008, I've watched my honors kids and my AP students become something like a bellwether for the direction our country's moving. Kids absorb the attitudes and assumptions they hear at home, and those ideas inevitably surface here in the classroom. My first honors class was what people today would probably call liberal, even the kid who was already on the path to becoming an evangelical minister. That group sometimes openly mocked the authoritarian impulses and the outright goofiness they saw in the sitting president of that time. The next class too. But my first AP class also hinted at a shift. Their time in my room overlapped with the beginning of Trump's first term, and as we read works like 1984, the parallels felt uncomfortably familiar. A hostile press secretary aggressively shaping the narrative, claims from the administration that their statements weren't lies, just alternative facts. And yet that class hesitated. They saw it, but they were slower to say it out loud. One kid in the front row, a brilliant thinker whose politics clearly leaned toward 1990s liberalism, would visibly bristle during discussions of totalitarian regimes or Big Brother's contemporary political scams. She knew what she wanted to say, she just held it in. And the class after that leaned further still, with a few students expressing hostility toward people they saw as weak or those deserving punishment. While reading Creon's speeches about punishment in Antigone, one kid, a genuinely good kid, looked me in the eye and asserted that he didn't think Creon went far enough. Now that moment stuck with me. The next group lived through the pandemic years, and then COVID cracked everything open. We went remote, we wore masks, we distanced ourselves, and we returned to classrooms that felt less like communities, and really more like standoffs. This year, 25-26, really surprises me. The student attitude seemed to have swung hard in an opposite direction. The room is still divided, with some students quiet about their conservative views or what they idealize as a pro-American stance. But I have noticed a larger, louder contingent in all four of my classes. Kids who are loudly and unapologetically angry at the current direction of what Sophocles called this ship of state, and what they believe this all represents. The state cuts educational funding. It celebrates its goal to dismantle education. And simultaneously, teachers are increasingly painted as villains, accused of indoctrination simply for asking our students to read competing viewpoints. Heck, to just read books and think critically about them. That accusation alone should give us pause. And we teachers are caught here in the middle. I have standards to teach, and I do teach them. But I also have a moral obligation, a human obligation, to let these kids exercise their voices, especially when those voices clash with one another, or when they contradict my own beliefs. Because I'm not here to tell them what to think. I can't, and I won't. But I can challenge them to think, to question why they believe what they do, and to share that thinking honestly. This week, as we continue our work with social commentary, two of my brightest voices, Saydee and Lainie, ask for the chance to discuss a text that feels inseparable from the culture they're living in right now. The Hunger Games is a warning, and it's a question, and it's a test of who we are when power grows louder and opposition grows quiet. They came to me with the idea, and I offered to step back and let them have the mics. Because again, I'm not here to tell my students what to think. But I do have a set of microphones, and I do have a podcast, and I can ask them what they think. because there's something hollow these days, something hollow and hypocritical about standing in front of these students and dodging their questions with a polite smile and calling that responsibility. What are we doing if we aren't challenging these thinkers? What are we even doing if we're not expanding these conversations and helping young writers and creators find their voices? We can do better. America can do better. So you wanted to talk about Hunger Games today, and before we started recording, we talked a little bit back and forth about that. You all thought that, I don't know, this might be pretty dicey. Even Lainie, you were coming up to me saying, I don't know, Mr. Crock, you may have to edit out parts. You may have to stop me. Why? Why did you all think that this was going to be so dicey? Tell me. It's just the Hunger Games.
But literature isn't always as it seems. If they were to write it only in the aspect of as far as the storyline, then it wouldn't mean anything outside the book. But it always does. And, it's a very opinionated topic. And, it can get like that.
The story beyond the story.
Yeah. And for me, especially when I get talking about something I'm really passionate about, I just have this raging anger in me. And I just feel the need to tell everybody what I feel, even though sometimes I'm going to get backlash for it.
Time
and
and
it
place.
sucks, but
Raging anger is not the core emotion, is not the defining trait I would have picked for either of you. Raging anger?
Only when I'm talking about stuff, I literally just hate injustice so much.
Oh,
I don't
Sorry
deal
I
with-
banged on the table. I hate it.
I don't deal with ignorance very well, and I think a lot of stuff comes from ignorance and unrealizing to see anybody else's standpoint. I don't do intransigent very well either, because I like people to see my point of view, because I very try to see other people's point of view. So I think that's where a lot of my anger comes from, and just people being dumb.
Well, hey,
I agree.
I have a good news for you. We live in a society that is not ignorant or intolerant at all.
Good one.
I'm going to have to add a soundboard where there's crickets that go in there.
Oh, I'd love to just run the soundboard.
Yeah.
All right. So when you think about the Hunger Games, are you want to talk about them all? Or you want to talk about one book? Like what?
All of them.
All of them. Book or movies? Or both? Oh.
Probably a little bit of both, because there's a lot of imagery in the movies that's very...
And the actors do a very good job in portraying how the characters act, and you get to see a little bit more about their body language than you would.
Yeah.
What are the things, the main topics that y'all wanted to talk about? So I know,
okay.
what are we going to walk through?
Wait, I have my themes written down.
Because Lainie came to me with yellow pages. She knew.
Listen, I have my themes that I really wanted to talk about. My two biggest ones, the first one is in all of the books, but it's the inequality between the rich and the poor. Mm-hmm. And then in Mockingjay, systematic oppression always leads to revolution.
Wow.
In some shape or form, or just it always does. There's no way around it.
Yeah, I like the class thing is very apparent. And also I want to talk about how government can pin us up against each other, and that it can lead us to not realize the problem. And if you come together, you can defeat that problem. But if they're going to constantly just push all away from each other, and they are putting in these problems so we can't get along and we can't push up against them.
Yeah.
And they can stay in power.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's one of my big ones.
And you wanted me to sit in an episode and discuss this. You think I'm okay with this?
You don't have. Nobody's forcing you to.
It's a choice.
Nobody said, "Hey, you have to be in this podcast."
Yeah, but I see you as a very not afraid to say how you. Yeah.
Well, that's what I was wondering is I know I'm in class with you guys every day for an hour and a half, and this is, golly, how many weeks now? But at the same point, do you really have a vision of what Jason Crockett's like? So when you were saying, hey, I want to do an episode about this, it made me wonder, what's your assumption about me? What's your assumption about Jason Crockett's attitude?
Well, my mom works with you, so I hear stories about you, and I can just, I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but I just even before my mom and I need to stop saying so much. Even before me and my mom started really talking about serious stuff about you, I was just I just feel he's different from other teachers.
He's not like other girls.
He's not like other girls.
Yeah.
He's one of the boys.
My thing is, my point of view on people that don't state their opinion and they like to stay very in the middle is very
part of the
wishy-washy.
problem.
Yeah, if you aren't willing to stand up to a problem, you're just as much as the problem. Like, just like any time in history that you saw people sitting there on the sidelines and just watching these bad things happen and not saying anything about it and not using any platform you have to stand up for it, you are just as much the problem as the people doing it. So I have a very negative aspect on people who don't feel the need to speak their opinion, because if you don't have an opinion, why are you doing anything that's benefiting society? So I don't have that opinion of you whatsoever, because you have a lot to say just in terms of literature. Like, you aren't afraid to say what the author is really saying, and that even if it could be conceived as controversial, that it's still important to know and to see all sides of it.
As far as my job goes, I'm in a unique position where I'm a public servant, and that's great. I picked this intentionally to be a public servant. I want to serve society, but also at the same time, society has a lot of differing values and attitudes and opinions about everything. And maybe now more than ever, those are in competition. They're very polarized. So I got to be careful about how I serve that community when half of them are going to say this and half of them are going to say that.
Yeah.
A student I was working with the other day, helping them through a similar kind of topic. They said that I'm glad that you were willing to work with me on this. I was honestly a little scared to ask you to help. And they said, but I thought you would be pretty neutral about your attitude toward things.
Yeah.
Is neutral the word you would use with Jason Crockett?
No, not really.
No.
I think if you are not willing to say the cold hard truth, you can't just be wishy-washy about certain things, because you need to say the truth.
Yeah.
That's what people need to hear. They don't need to hear some glazed over version so they can feel better about the decisions they are making. You need to be brutal.
Yeah, there's a poem, and it says, first they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. And it continues, and it keeps saying all these things that this person is not, but he never spoke out. And the last stanza says, then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me.
Mm-hmm.
So who am I in that poem?
Oh, nobody. I was saying, Saydee
Yeah.
talking about you have to do something. You can't just sit there because
Yeah,
you're
you
just
can't
part of
not
the
have
problem.
a stand.
Because then there's going to be no one left who cares.
Yeah, and that's not how I see you whatsoever.
So how should I navigate that position then, where I'm a public servant in the middle of some very heated opinions?
I think time and place is definitely important.
Tact.
Because if somebody's not willing to see the other side of it, there's no point in me wasting my breath on somebody that's just being completely one-minded, because at that point you're doing nothing but arguing. Yeah. So time and place is very important. How you do it is important, but also, again, you can't just be nice to them if they're not willing to, if it's not getting through their head. You have to.
Yeah. On my sheet for this, I wrote down, remember not to attack, educate. Because I will get so angry and heated about stuff. I just have to be very careful.
Yeah, I know, me too.
My wife literally just told me that 2 days ago when I was getting ready to have a hard conversation with some people in school. And she said, Jason, you can't go into it just saying it like that. She said, every time you go on these kind of tangents, you sound like, well, I know the answer. I'm right, they're wrong. And you can't approach it that way. Except my answer was, but I am right. I am right. In this instance, I'm right.
It's like Harry Potter.
But you are also correct. You gotta educate, not attack. That's true. All right. Well, let's start talking about the Hunger Games. What do you want to begin with?
Today on With Honors, we're going to get a little crazy and talk about a banned book. You know it, you love it. It's The Hunger Games, a novel focused on a tyrannical government and the rebellion of its citizens.
I'm familiar with Hunger Games. Mm-hmm. You're familiar with Hunger Games, but we have to imagine that some of our listeners out there never watched the movies or read them. So Saydee, how would you summarize what are the Hunger Games about?
In what was once North America, the government of Panem, the capital, controls each of its 12 districts. Each year, the districts are required to select a boy and a girl to compete in the fight to the death event called the Hunger Games. Each citizen must watch until only one tribute remains. Our protagonist, Katniss Everdeen, is this year's girl from District 12. She has little to rely on other than her hunting skills and her sharp instincts in an open arena where she must wait until survival against love.
If you had to pick a favorite character.
That's hard. Probably Joanna. I
Really?
see
Out of
myself
the
in
whole
Joanna.
series?
Yeah.
Really?
I see myself in her.
Okay. What about you?
I really like Katniss, but I feel like that's so basic. Honestly, I do like Peeta. I feel like he does get very treated, like a lot of misjustice happens to him, but I don't think he's kind of misunderstood. One person I don't like is Gale. I don't like We don't like Gale.
Really?
Are you Team Gale?
Are we serious? Pardon me?
Gale?
Wow.
Are you Team Gale?
I was in the beginning, yeah.
Well, yeah, but then
everybody was
he
in the
bombs
beginning.
like a hospital. So
He's crazy.
yeah, he's no better.
He's very entrenched.
Yeah, and like the
Crazy.
violence is no better than what the Capitol is doing by placing violence on.
But isn't Katniss also wreaking a lot of violence?
But for the right
Yeah.
reason.
Oh, so now we're getting into right and wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I hate to say violence is sometimes needed. It sometimes is like you
Sometimes.
can't just sit there and hope that they're going to change their mind if they're putting other people in danger and hurting them, and especially children. Like, you have to fight for the fight. Like the people who can't fight for themselves, you have to speak out for the fightless.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of, there's a book and a movie called Starship Troopers? You ever hear of this? Okay. So there was a sci-fi movie that was made out of it in the 90s. And the book itself is supposed to be a sarcastic look at government run by authority. And the movie was like, yeah, but we're just going to make it an action flick. And so it just kind of missed their heads altogether. But one of the teachers is a former veteran, and he's got all these kids in class that are just rich kids that are privileged. And one of them says, well, violence never solves anything. My mom says violence never solves anything.
They've never
And
experienced
the veteran
that.
tells her, that's cute.
That reminds me of that one song.
Yeah.
Which
Stone. No, who is it? It's like the Yeah Me. What's that song? We did it in class.
Oh, come on. It's
can't
not
remember
The Times They Are A-Changin'.
No.
Oh, I watched that movie.
No, I haven't. Yet.
I watched like a bit of it and then I got bored.
Oh, wow.
I think I wasn't really paying attention. I think I was playing a game on my phone.
Oh.
I was watching with Sarah Kate. It was
yeah, that makes
nighttime.
Yeah. Her teacher looks at her and says, oh, that's cute. And then he says, every time that you vote, you are exercising a kind of political violence or force. You are forcing people to abide by your decision. And he says, saying that, political violence never works is basically ignorance at its best, that you're just blinding yourself.
Yeah.
My favorite Hunger Games character, I think, is President Snow.
Ooh.
Which
why?
I was afraid you were going to be mad when
Makes
I said
sense.
that.
Yeah.
Why?
He likes to always say he's
you're a-
benevolent. I
You're
don't.
a corrupted leader,
Yeah.
Mr. Crockett.
I do love me a good villain on
too.
paper. I don't want
He's a great
You don't want one in the
He's
country,
such
though.
a good written. Like his character is so well written.
Yes. I don't want to live in a reality.
Yeah, you don't want
with
to run
one
in
of
the country
those,
at all.
but I really like me a good villain.
I like. I haven't read the book yet, but the songs. And,
Oh, yeah.
I like. What's
Songbird
her
and
name?
Snakes.
What's her name?
Clearwater Revival.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Fortunate Son.
Yeah.
That's right.
Wait, what's the girl's name and the protagonist in the newest book that came out? The movie.
Lucy Gray.
Yes, I like her. I like her vibe and I like her music. That was such a good soundtrack, and I
That was.
love
That
some
was a
Olivia
great
Rodrigo. So Can't Catch Me Now.
Yeah.
it's so good. I love some Olivia.
All right. So Hunger Games. Why talk about it? What do you want to start with?
Well, because I believe that Suzanne Collins wrote it as a way of mourning against tyrannical government. And right now, I hate to say it, but I see some of those same things in our government today,
Parallel.
in our country.
You started off today by saying, Mr. Crockett, everything's political. And I said that was the title of one of my favorite chapters from How to Read Literature Like a Professor, that everything is political. If all we did was sit in class and just read a real cute story about, I don't know, video game designers, and that was it, great. But you're missing the bigger point. None of us were here just to read a real cute story and then move on with our lives. It's supposed to be that L3 where it's like beyond the page, why does it matter? So oftentimes we do see ourselves in this. Tell me more about it.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we're gonna start with one of my points I have. So the capital represents like the ultra wealthy in like society. So I would say in our societies, those are people like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, like those people that have just an excess amount of money and are billionaires.
For what?
Yeah. So the districts represent our class systems because like you know how some of the districts are more poor and more less off, like District 12 in the seam, but it shows how like our everyday, like their everyday societies are dirt poor. Like especially we see that in District 12, like when she's sitting there like begging for bread and like in the rain and she's like dying. Like some are slightly better well off, but nobody is as wealthy as those capitals.
Yeah, I wanted to say, this is what I was talking about. I was scared to say this, but I'm going to say it. Friday night, there was a great Gatsby party at Mar-a-Lago, which is Trump's hotel business. And it really hurt my heart because that next day, November 1st, is when food stamps, food money was getting defunded and cut off due to the government shutdown. And I just think that reminded me of the scene, I believe it's in Catching Fire, when they go to the Capitol party and she sees these Capitol folk taking pills so they can throw up and eat more, and they're just eating more when the districts are starving.
Yeah, like we see how like the Capitol, the more that the districts fight amongst each other and the more that they are arguing with each other, that you see that all that does is benefit the wealthy. They are constantly just getting more and more and more. Like she says that at one point that she's like, okay, well, who is always winning? President Snow. He always is winning. But like it's not as much of a power divide as it is like a money divide, because money is power. Like we say that, and it is true that the ultra wealthy are still making more money and they are still getting more power. The more we argue with each other, it isn't like it's not. And it's also not always money. It's sometimes left versus right. The more we divide with that political and like we're becoming less as a united society, that's how the people that are pulling the strings behind the screen, people don't want to notice and don't want to believe that, but it's true. They're doing this as a manipulative, calculated, knowing that all that's going to do is just push their agenda and they're going to be getting more power.
Yeah, and like you said, that the wealthy in our society will always have the most power. The top 10% of households controlling approximately 60 to 70% of the nation's wealth right now. And the lower class, the bottom 50%, only holds about 3 to 6% of the wealth.
Yeah.
Because that's just so crazy. Because if you're a billionaire, why are you a billionaire?
Yeah.
Billie Eilish said that. She said, if you're a billionaire, why are you a billionaire?
Isn't that the American dream, though?
Yeah, you work for the money, but then somebody could be arguably working harder than you and is still getting, poor and not as much money because that they are not having as well off standards. When you start with a lot more money and in impoverished areas, it's easier to get that money.
Yeah.
But
so part of me was sarcastic in asking that question, but part of me was also like, oh, but isn't that what we tell our kids? That's also the American dream. Like anybody can grow up,
power.
Right? Anybody can grow up to be president, and then looking at your kids and say, if you work hard, you can grow up and be rich and have the big house and everything. Like the American dream is not ethical. It's not anybody can grow up to be a good person. The American dream is financial. That everybody can grow up and have that big house and that big boat and that big dog and that big family and all of that. That's money. So why billionaires? Because that's the corruption of money. That's the temptation of money. That more.
And I think that's just a way of saying like you push people down to get what you want and get what you need. And I think it's sadly that we push that capitalistic like ideal of, maybe one day you can have 15 yachts too. First off, why do you need that? But second, anyway, I think a bunch of like people coming to America are obsessed with that ideal when in reality, when they get here, they realize that's not how that works. They have to deal with a lot more issues than just working their 9 to 5 to get their job. And now they're getting their very limited food comes from food stands. And now those are being taken away,
It's really, really tough to live in a society where whatever your politics are, whatever your voting is, we're talking about people going hungry.
Yes.
And the audacity of looking at them and saying, well, they just need to work harder.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I know that there are some people in every system who abuse the system, but I'm having a real, the following thoughts and theories are just Jason Crockett's sole property and not the expression of anybody else at this table. I have a real hard time caring that there are going to be 12 or 200 people abusing the system if it means one kid's going hungry.
100%.
I have a real hard time caring.
That's like punishing the whole class because one kid did something.
Well, yeah, and it's like, it's so sad to watch, free lunch get taken from kids, kids who have done nothing, and you're saying they just need to work harder. Well, what do you want that kid to do?
Half of them are
miss
not
school,
working age.
Yeah. And then you put in child labor laws.
Yes.
Like you want that kid to be in class and to be, learning to better our society. But at the end of the day, what's really bettering our society is that just working for a mindless job so they can get more money for big corporates. Like, what do you want from poor children who have nothing that they can work for?
I have snacks and stuff over there in the back corner, and a kid came through and asked me for some the other day, and I'm always willing to let hungry kids have food. That's always going to happen. But somebody also reminded me that sometimes you'll see these kids come and get snacks, and it's like, you want them to make sure that they don't take everything because other kids might be hungry too. But you'll notice that there are always going to be some kids who grab an extra couple handfuls. And it's like, why? Because they've learned, I don't know the next time I'm going to go hungry. I don't know the next time. And it immediately made me think, what if that were your own daughter, Jason? What if that were your own son? And if you can think about other people having that empathy, that's the human quality right there. But the poison of wealth, ooh, I'm going to tattoo that. The poison of wealth is that we only think about ourselves.
Yeah.
You mentioned that this is like an American parallel, but what does she do with her character names? Did you notice with her character names anything?
No.
So many of her character names are Roman names. Like, what's her designer's name? The guy
Cinna,
that's a Roman name.
He might be my favorite.
I love him in the movie.
He might be my favorite.
He's such a diva.
Is it that you love Cinna, or is it that you love the guy who plays Cinna?
Both.
No,
Okay.
both.
He's such a diva. I just love it.
Collins, she named so many of her characters after these Roman names. And it's actually like the thing you just brought up reminded me of that, how the people from the Capitol at the party will overeat, take a pill to throw up so that they can continue eating. That was allegedly, that was a practice at wealthy Roman parties, is that they had a room called the vomitorium where you would just turn, throw up, and then go back to partying. Originally, this was supposed to be patterned on the excesses of the Roman Empire, that here they have grown too corrupt, too decadent, too partying, and they have lost perspective of what really runs the country. But here we are. It's absolutely an American parallel, too. What's the name of the country in the
Panem.
Panem. How do you spell it?
Paneem.
Panem. That's right.
Bread.
So where does that come from?
It means bread in Latin, doesn't it?
That's right. Do you know why she named the country Bread?
Because they don't have any, because they're starving.
Because pita bread.
The whole story is, you're right, it is predicated upon
there's
hunger
so much
and food.
bread.
Because that was the Roman theory. People will never rebel against you as long as you keep feeding them panem et circuses. As long as you keep throwing them like parties, as long as you keep throwing circuses, gladiatorial events, they would have people throwing out loaves of bread for the crowd, like cheerleaders throw out T-shirts at games and stuff. And as long as you keep giving people these distractions, they will never rebel against you. So the country is named Panem because we put on a Hunger Games every so often, right?
No, I have another way that they continue to try to divide the people of the districts. Gail had said in the beginning of the first book that the tesserae and it was like a different level of struggle just within District 12. But they were in place to make sure that they never truly trust one another. Like he had said that when he was talking about Marge, and even though, she didn't intend to come off that way when she was talking to him about, the drawing and stuff, but that was put in place to just further and further divide them. But this can be seen as a parallel to like student loans. People are forced into crippling debt just to go to college and make ends meet. But some people have family to pay for those like payments, and they never have to take out those loans. And so therefore that just creates that, oh, well, you don't know the struggle that I've been through. Like I had to go and get out $150,000 just so I can go and get a 9-to-5 that's barely making, I can't pay it off. But you just got that easy way through. So now we have that divide that was, I think it's just as equal as the Tesserae with the districts.
Yeah.
So how do we do that in America? How do we or do you think, do we actually pit Americans against other Americans?
110%.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Yes.
Other than what, like the money? What else?
I think we see I think America is seen as a constant competition because just in little ways like jobs, you're always competing against somebody else to get the promotion. I feel like America has always been a very competitive society, and that we've always thought, okay, well, here I can get my little leverage and I can get above somebody else. I think that's it's been shown throughout classrooms. It's a very prominent thing that has. Yeah.
What are Americans arguing about now?
What's
the big this versus that?
Politics.
Yeah.
Left versus
Lord.
right.
Left versus right.
It's always about left versus right. It can never be right and wrong.
North versus south. Yep. What else? Left versus right.
I think
north
that's
versus
the biggest
south.
thing, right? Now, when I say left versus right, I mean blue versus red.
Blue versus red. I agree.
Yeah. In which then we argue about religions, about what is morally just and what is not morally just.
Right.
But moral injustice. A lot of people think that they will conceive other people as sensitive for not. I'd say it's not being sensitive. It's just being tone deaf.
Yeah.
But it's just little stuff like that. We constantly are pit against each other to argue, and that's why we have people who are constantly attacking other people. We always have some celebrity beef going on.
Oh, yeah.
We're always arguing.
What in the news or what in TikTok videos or whatever do you see as far as Americans attacking other Americans? Do you see any of that right now?
Yeah, people always calling other people out for stuff, and they're like, oh, well, this is me just stating my belief, and we're constantly attacking each other.
Yeah.
And TikTok's a very competitive place as well.
Oh, it sure can. Social media absolutely can.
And so, I think since social media, we have done nothing but just spiral that competition.
It fuels it.
Well, yeah, and I think even in the base of our society, with presidents and elections, that's a competitive nature. People are getting taken out. It's a very competitive area, and you're willing to drop somebody's dirty secret if that means that you're going to get more votes than them.
Oh yeah. So you said we've always been that way. We have ever since Americans have been Americans. It's always been this versus that. It's been rebellion from the start.
Did we not literally race other countries to be the first ones
to the moon,
to the land?
Oh yeah.
To this land.
Oh yeah, agreed.
We're a country founded on competition.
Yeah,
built
I
on
agree.
Competition.
Yeah, and I think democracy is a very competitive.
Yeah.
I agree, but democracy is not meant to be divisive.
No.
It's meant to bring many voices into one. Yeah. E pluribus unum, out of many, one. And when I was growing up, the motto always was that we're a melting pot. And then it got to be, oh, you shouldn't say that. You shouldn't say that. We're not. We all want to be distinct from each other too. Yeah. Because melting means, well, I lose my individuality and I become too much like them.
It just wants to be different.
Yeah, want to be
And
different.
you know what? I can still be nuanced in a melting pot. I have no problem with my kids going to school with kids of other colors, other languages, other religious beliefs, whatever.
Yeah.
And I like, that they get to learn other languages. I like that they get to be, asking other questions. I think you've definitely got north versus south, left versus right, man versus woman,
black
that's
versus white,
one.
brown versus white. You have a lot of competitive elements in this country that I think are being pitted against each other. Now, why would anybody want them pitted against each other?
Because
if we're all fighting each other, this is something my mom says all the time. If we're all fighting each other, it's a distraction from what the government is really truly doing.
Yeah.
As long as you keep feeding them bread and circuses.
As long as we're so busy arguing with each other, everybody is just oblivious to what's going on.
Well, and I think that is shown in a lot of different ways. When we're too busy on what's going on in America to realize stuff that's going on in other countries as well. That it can be more than just America too, because like we'll be too focused on the the newest celebrity beef when there's people dying in other third world countries and we don't care.
Or here.
Yeah.
I have an ugly thing to bring up that is so true. I mean, last season, the threat was, they're going to take away TikTok. And that suddenly out of nowhere became the big beef. They're going to take away TikTok. They're going to cancel TikTok. They're going to cancel it. And it was like all that half of my honors class could talk about. No, they can't take away my TikTok. And I thought, why do you care so much?
People cry.
It's just one social media outlet. Where's that argument now? Where's nobody's crying about that now. Some politicians who will go nameless, I am not identifying specific ones, but some politicians have found it very lucrative that as long as you blitz the public with 3, 4, 5 big crises all at one time, humans don't have the bandwidth to focus on all of them, so you can at least sneak one of them by.
Yep. And we focused on the one that's most self-centered.
And then next week, hit them with 3 more crises, and they'll forget about those last week. And then next week, you can get something else by.
Yeah, and I think that's how it's been, I think constantly recently, it's been one thing after another. Like, we've had one problem after another. Right as one's going on, something else is coming up. And, like, another argument, another, like, thing that people are talking about at school. Like, we'll come to school, and there's a new argument being thrown at us every single day. So I think that is, like, you forgot about what happened last week because this week there's something just as crazy happening and, something else to have to try to convey to people.
Fahrenheit 451. One of the characters brings that very point up that humans basically have the attention span of a fly anymore. And as long as you can keep changing, they never have enough patience to sit there and focus long enough. They never have enough attention to sit there and just think long enough about anything. And I think cell phones do that to us because I'm just as guilty as anybody. This is not me preaching. I'm just as guilty as sitting there thinking, well, I need to swipe.
Yeah. You lose my interest in 2 seconds and I'm hashtag gone.
I do be going through those videos at 2 times speed.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I know, me too, right?
So hates to see me.
That takes away your attention span and you just need to move on, and you're unable to focus. The capital profits off of that. What else?
Let me look.
Ooh, can I go into like a good part?
Go ahead.
Do it.
So the second little theme I wrote down was, it says systematic oppression leads to revolution. And I kind of wanted to focus on the revolution part because there were a lot of, little tiny acts of revolution of rebellion in the Capitol. For example, the one man, he got shot for simply raising his hand in like commemorance with Katniss and Avril. And I think that is just such an important, I think rebellion, like our country is quite literally, did we not rebel from the British because of tyranny? Did we not have women's rights movements and civil rights movements and abolition movements? Like our country is quite literally built on revolution and rebellion and not staying conformed to something that is
wrong,
bad for the people and wrong for the people.
Yeah, like another way of that happens in the book is the way when she sneaks in that the Mockingjay pen that she's not supposed to have. She snuck it into the thing like the arena to keep a little bit of herself, and I think that's another way that we just you see a lot of rebellion.
Yeah.
But
and I think that all that stuff just like it's for me, especially when I see people just speaking out against the tyranny in our government right now. I have that like fire inside of me, and it's the good fire this time. It's not the angry fire, but it's the good fire. And I just like for example, the No Kings protest just made me feel so hopeful for the.
You mean
future.
the anti-American?
Sorry, the anti-American protest.
The hateful and harmful and aggressive.
Yeah, the aggressive. What are the revolts?
Yeah,
That's crazy.
That need to be arrested.
But that literally, like from my standpoint and from a lot of people's standpoints, it brought me a lot of hope because it just shows me like people do actually care about the country that we're in.
Yeah,
and they're not just trying to let it go to.
And like a lot of people are willing to let go of a lot of things just so they can be like, okay, well that it is how it is. It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be.
It does not have to be.
Would you rather just still have King George as your king?
Yeah. And being conformative is, I think, again, just as bad. To not stand up to what evil is going on, you are just as bad as the people putting on that evil into others.
Yeah.
I do want to say, I wrote this down because I just want people to be educated on the No Kings because they were not protests against the fact that we had a king, because we don't have a king. We're very fortunate to not have a king. They were a series of demonstrations against what the organizers describe as an authoritarian government, and the authoritarian policies of you-know-who, and the corruption in his administration. And they were just a way of saying, hey, we don't want this to happen because I love America. This is me showing my patriotism. And they were just simply exercising their First Amendment, their right to protest, their right to free speech, the freedom of the press.
Well, yeah, and that's also, I think, shown when we had a bunch of the deportation and the ICE protests about ICE and stuff like that. Because, again, that is a big part of their culture, like, immigrants and stuff like that. But I think that is, again, another way of, like, people pushing up against, tyrannical government, and of like he who should not be named. But like, I think that it is important, because you can't just be, if you have a conformative society, you have a society that never grows. You have a very standstill society. And that is, again, you want a society that's ever growing and ever evolving. We're a very evolving society. I think we come up with a lot of new, inventions.
We're changing every day.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then also you do see points of recession where we're going back to old ways. Yeah. And that is, again, could be harmful, because history repeats
will always
itself.
Repeat itself, no matter how hard we try
and
to prevent it.
There's always wrinkle in time of what happened when, like, at once. And, I think history should be used, and not a way to, not think about bad, but it should be a way to prevent. And I think that was one of her reasons on writing this book. Like, I have this written down that, like, so our author, she saw a state of America that the world had then she decided to put that into a young adult novel, and that's what we are reading. She saw the fight over resources, class welfare, exploitive media, and propaganda that's spread by false information and false narratives in the Hunger Games. Like, we have people bathing in luxury, and while people like District 12 starve. Like, they are fighting to stay alive day to day, while some people,
and that's like
have an excess amount.
60% of our country is middle class or lower.
Yeah, we have billionaires flying to space, while kids in Jackson, Mississippi, like, don't have access to clean water. How do us as America, somebody that's like a country that's quote unquote so amazing and the best country in the world, how do we have kids in our own states not having access to clean water? That is so insane to me, and that is just so, like, it's sad, and it's so self-conceited. But I think Hunger Games was such a big warning sign that we have yet to notice and to be,
make a move about it. Yeah. The amount of people that claim to want to make America great again, who want to make America great again, but are simply okay and just kind of laid back about what's happening.
But then when they hear a piece of false information about somebody they don't like, they're willing to cut their head off. But then their own, person that they love to praise and does no wrong, they don't want to see the other side of it. A lot of their rules don't apply to them. But
I think it really is difficult to hear something about yourself that you don't like, no matter what side or age or gender you are. Not to make the show about me, but let's make the show about me.
Okay.
Okay.
What is a flaw about Jason Crockett? You've known me for 3 months. What's a flaw about me?
There's not a single flaw in
Lies.
You're just so
Crockett.
perfect,
Lies.
Jason Crockett.
Royally bad lies. Those are all lies. Like, what's an obvious flaw about him? Tell truth.
Gosh, I don't know.
You can't possibly get canceled for this.
Yeah.
We're not big enough to get canceled.
I know several flaws about myself.
Maybe quick to action. Like, you are very quick on your feet, but then that
Sometimes
can always
be a fault.
Yeah, that always can work.
Sometimes he is
being
impulsive.
abrasive.
Yes. Sometimes I hear something and I just run with it, and it's like, okay, well, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm quick to anger. My kids are hearing this now. Dad is often quick to anger about stuff. Often he believes he's right, and you have a hard time of convincing him he's not right about something.
Me too.
So that's pride, and that's impulsiveness. And if you were to tell me, okay, but Crockett, you're just being really impulsive right now, I might react badly to that and not want to hear that. That goes true for politics. That goes true for like all of these things that, I can say it about your candidate, But if you say it about my candidate and you're right, I'm gonna react really badly about it. But truth is a hard pill to swallow sometimes, man. It doesn't mean that they don't need to hear it.
Yeah, but truth has to be said in order
Right.
for growth to occur.
I love America. You love America.
Yes.
I think we love America. And how can you love America if you don't love a little bit of rebellion?
Exactly. Like,
How are you an American?
period. Like you don't truly believe what we're based off of. And also, again, I think also an important state of like talking about we are based on rebellion. We're also based on stolen land as well. To say they're like to use harmful words is like insane because we have done this before. So now you're putting a negative.
It sounds a little better, but it's not.
But it's really not with the connotation that you're adding to it.
Well, they think it's. They say
yeah, and like.
Absolutely. One of my favorite superheroes is Superman, and I teach it with Beowulf because it's like the whole superhero genre mythos. And when I get down to what Superman really is, he's supposed to be a reflection of the American identity, what we love about ourselves. And I always ask, where did Superman come from? Y'all know?
Planet, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But a lot of kids are like, he's from like Kansas. He's from Smallville, Kansas. That's true. He does come to us from Smallville, Kansas, which is small town, rural farm country. And don't we love that in America?
Yeehaw.
Yeah. But Superman's also from another planet. How did he get here?
Space.
Okay. Does anybody know how he got here?
He came here.
His planet was blowing up and his parents sent
Oh,
him
yes, I
here.
remember this.
He is the last living son of his planet. His parents died knowing we won't be able to save our planet, so send him out there as
And
a
you know what?
He came to us as a refugee.
Yep.
He doesn't have any documentation.
Sounds a little familiar.
Yeah.
He did not follow a path of immigration to get to this country, and yet he landed here, was adopted, and he lives for truth, justice, and the American way. He is an icon of what Americans love, and he's an immigrant.
Yeah. No, that reminds me of like we were talking about, me and Lainie have talked about this many times. If Jesus was here, and people love to talk about Jesus, which I do too. Jesus is our savior, but that's my opinion, and people don't have to share that opinion. But if Jesus were here today, and people would want to deport him, people would hate him for what he's saying, and because he speaks love, not hate.
Yeah.
And I think we forget that. We can be so hateful and so quick to it because we say a lot of our words through a screen. We don't say a lot of our words face to face to people it actually affects. Like usually when we're talking about our opinions, we're talking about them to somebody that's just like us. Yeah. So we don't actually see how our words affect people that we are speaking about. Yeah. A lot of these entitled ideals come from people who don't go to impoverished areas. They don't see the kids that are starving. They don't see the people being torn from their homes and families being ripped apart.
Yeah. People all the time are like, well, Jesus would be a this, Jesus would be a... No. Jesus is love. His love is so radical. And the way that he's like, it's just so different. He would be like, people would think he was crazy. The way that he would love people and just be like, just exactly how they treated him when he came to Earth the first time. Like, his love and the way he is just so, it's neither. It's so like when that's why people ask me, oh, are you a Democrat? Oh, you're a Republican? Oh, you're a liberal, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I'm a Jesus follower.
Period.
Like, I'm not this or that. Like, I am going to do what the Bible tells me to do. And I'm not going to like, I'm chicken bone the Bible and try to like pick and choose what I want to read. No, like my beliefs are biblically based. Period.
Yeah, and that's important for if you want. Like, also, I do believe, like speaking of religion, though, religion doesn't always have to be a way of you to explain your political beliefs because it's a government that should not be only based along
separation
what you believe.
Of church and state.
Yeah, but
we did always used to scream that separation of church and state. We did always used to.
My least favorite thing in the whole world ever, in the whole entire universe, is people doing bad things in Jesus' name. Like it makes me so mad to a point that I just want to punch somebody. Like it's so bad.
Yeah,
it is the worst thing I think that you can do because it gets to a point that it's just blasphemy.
1 billion%. It not even just gets to a point like that is blasphemy.
Yeah.
The whole taking my name in vain. I think a lot of people just get too tripped up on, well, you're not supposed to say God's name in vain. The whole I'm going to do this and say that I'm doing it on behalf of Jesus. That's taking God's name in vain.
It doesn't say his name in vain. It says take his name in vain.
Yeah.
Christ, his teachings, whatever you in Radio America, whatever your beliefs are, that's great. Whatever my beliefs are, that's great. If we can't talk about everything, we can't talk about anything. Great.
Period. I love that saying
But
of yours.
Christ's teachings are that whatever you've done for the least of us, you've done for me.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard for me to say, well, we can't sit in church and say that I only support this white guy. I can't say that I only support this influencer who had the same color skin as me. And I can't say, yeah, go round up, brown people and still show up in church. Christ says, whatever you've done for the least of me, you've done for me.
Yeah, he commands us to love the least of these, and he commands us to welcome the foreigner.
Yeah.
To welcome the foreigner into our land and take them and care for them and treat them.
He sat with sinners,
Yeah,
too.
he sat with sinners.
And doesn't say your sin is okay. He says, I want you to change your ways, but I'm going to sit with you and meet you where you
help
are.
Yeah, he says, come as you are, but you're not supposed to
Don't
stay as you are.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And what did he, I just referenced this in somebody's podcast last week. I must be on a trip with this, but he told Peter, feed my sheep. He didn't say, only if they look like me. He didn't say only if they voted this way. He didn't say only if they go to our church. He said, Peter, feed my sheep.
Well, yeah.
Not round them up into fences, not put them into an Alcatraz, not do this. He said, feed my sheep.
Yeah, and I think that's how we further divide. And we've talked constantly, I think this episode, about the divide that's being put upon us. And we are not noticing how more and more divided we get. And that I think situations like that could eventually lead into a division of a civil war or of two different states. That's happened to America before. It would not be an insane thing to happen.
Well, it happened in the Hunger Games, right?
Yes.
Isn't that where the Hunger Games comes from? The whole Capitol and everything. Wasn't it the result of a civil war?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the
And then
victors said from now on, we're going to do a Hunger Games and you are going to be subjected.
To keep the keep
To
the
make-
districts in line.
Yeah, and to remind
That's
them of
that.
what they
That's
did.
that oppressive government.
Is it
That's
a-
that tyranny.
It's like what happened with District 13.
Right.
Yeah.
And they rebelled and they got nuked.
They got
Yeah.
Remind me, how often does the Hunger Games happen? Is it a yearly event?
Yearly.
Yeah, yearly.
Yeah.
It's on July 4th.
That's right. That's
Oh,
right.
Reaping
Because
day.
it's supposed to be a
Reaping day.
parallel to America.
Yeah.
So it is a punishment that subjugates people and is meant to remind them yearly, you are less than I am and you deserve punishment.
Well, and that reminds me of when things happen in America and people, bad things happen, but they never want to let it go, but they always want to put that upon people that were the bad thing that happened. When 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
A very devastating
every
thing.
brown
But now,
person is-
every Muslim now is some
Yeah.
awful person that wants to tear down our country. That is not true. And to continually put that negative bias on them is just as bad. You are doing nothing good for the country. No one's sitting here thanking you for it. Because trust me, we're not going to. That is so insane. And you do it to children too. Are we serious right now?
I remember the fallout of September 11th. I was not there in New York, but I remember the morning that it happened, and I remember the night, and I remember the weeks after it. And it was a weird time for America. And I was just telling Coach Haston, I think this the other day, that was this part of our history where you were always on the lookout for this phantom menace of who's a terrorist. And an easy finger to point was, oh, it's that guy in a turban. Oh, it's that guy with the
hijab,
beard.
yeah.
Oh, it's that person right there who's
brown
speaking this
skin.
one. Oh, it's that one going
Jesus had
into,
brown skin too.
this mosque. I remember that people were offended that that there was a plan, there was the idea to build an Islamic community center within distance of the 9/11 memorial. And people were offended. How dare they? How dare they that it was Muslim terrorists who did this? Yeah, but even President George W. Bush, 9 days after it happened, addressed Congress and said, look, remember, our problem is not with Islam. We have plenty of brothers and sisters around the world in Islam who are our allies. Our problem is with extremists.
Yeah.
Our problem is with
And that's for
terrorists.
everybody.
That happened with Pearl Harbor as well, because we
Yeah.
just love to point fingers at minorities, and then
And what did we do?
we put them in the internment camps.
America made work camps for Japanese internment. That happened
internment
here
camps.
too. We did the same thing.
Sounds like
and
it's
it's
something
not
else I
right.
know.
It's
So
wrong.
repetitive.
Sounds like something else I heard of.
Yeah.
We say that history repeats itself, but like I told you the other day, I may not repeat, but it echoes
Yeah,
over
no, yeah,
and over.
Like, I think, which there was always there was the controversy about like alligator Alcatraz and with immigration. Yeah. We are constantly doing these same things, and it's just so repetitive.
We never learn.
Yeah, and for people not to notice those parallels, I'm like, do you ever read a book?
Have you been in a history class?
Are we
serious? Yeah.
Do you know, I think sometimes it's because people are so short-lived. Like we have 70, maybe 80 years, depending on 60, 70, 80 years out here. But that seems like forever, but really it's a single lifetime. And if you're not careful about passing down that history, the next generation's never going to learn it. They're never going to learn it.
Well, yeah, and to reference, and also like Japan, which with Pearl Harbor, Japan doesn't teach the actual what happened with Pearl Harbor, that they attacked us first. They only teach that we attacked them. But also I think the importance of preserving society for the generations to come is so important. We're reading a book right now, Project Hail Mary, and it talks about the importance of that as well. But you can't just be like, oh well, if it happens, it happens. Yeah. No, because then it's your children that are at stake. That are, right. If we were to have a civil war now, that's our childhood's at stake. We don't get to have a good.
That's what I was.
We don't get to
of.
raise kids.
You brought up the whole Civil War bit, and it reminded me that in the Hunger Games, that's what started all of this. And we just recently have come through a year or two where there was so much heated political antagonism here in America. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm telling you, so many people I heard last year in 2024 saying, if this doesn't happen the way I want, we'll have a civil war on our hands. We'll have a civil war. If they do this, we'll have a civil war. I can tell you it was one view of people that were saying that. It was not another view of people that were saying that. Yeah. And never, why would we ever be so eager to kick off a civil war? Yeah. It's never going to be something that is like, oh, this will suddenly solve all our problems.
It never goes back to the same. Dumb. Yeah, it never goes back.
War causes so much chaos, death, destruction, disruption. You've got famine, you've got all sorts of chaos. Yeah. And it's never the thing you want to suddenly reach for.
Yeah.
It would never be something that I'd be proud to tell people, well, we'll have us a civil war.
Yeah,
I'm convinced that somebody in power right now really wants to go to war so that they can stay in office for a little bit longer and make it seem okay.
Well, yeah, and
Are you talking about Dolly Parton?
No. Oh, yeah. Wait, what? No, I'm talking about.
That doesn't sound like a Dolly quote. No.
No. Yeah. Which if if you know exactly who she would be referring to by not even saying names, it does a lot. But
we have a constitution for a reason.
Well, yeah, and also trying to get so you can run for a third term.
Americans, how can you like America and not like a little bit of rebellion? Mm-hmm. And I always tell kids that I like a little bit of rebellion when it's not aimed at me.
Yeah.
I like that. But I will also tell you as a father, something that I've come to see for myself is that part of growing up is that you keep talking about conformity and that you obey the rules that your parents and your churches and your teachers and everybody have established. But at some point, Saydee and Lainie, y'all, as growing up, have to decide which rules you really think are worth abiding by and which ones you're like, I don't necessarily agree with that. And you have to take all of these rules and beliefs and everything that the world has handed you, and you have to break that wall down and then rebuild it in a style that suits you. That's rebellion. At some point, you have to do that in a healthy growth toward individuality, maturity.
Yeah.
But it's not civil war. It's not chaos. You don't want it to be like that.
It's patriotism at its core.
Yeah.
It's individuality and belief.
And it's wanting the best for your country.
Yeah.
And also, I just did this whole lesson last week about evaluating your sources and then considering, did I get it wrong? Maybe other people got it wrong, but maybe I got it wrong. Sometimes you got to question, are my beliefs actually right?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Because we would be absolutely the hypocrite if we just sat here and said, well, no, we're right, they're wrong. But evaluating, maybe we got it wrong in some of these ways. And when you look at the Hunger Games, I think that's a great lens for saying, I don't know, maybe America's not going down the right path.
Yeah, and also I think, again, another parallel to that is how the Capitol right? They watch these games as sort of entertainment. Like, they love to see these games. It was kind of like our version of the Met Gala. People love to see this happen. And they love to see it on TV. So, and they emotionally detach themselves. Like, it's not real to them. It's nothing more than a TV show. So I think that is directly a parallel to how we react to war in other countries. Like, we, today in society with the Palestine-Israel war, we have people in America, people were dying, and we didn't, fellow, humans. It doesn't even matter as much about nationality anymore. It is humans. These are children. These are parents. These are, people trying to fight for their life, and we emotionally detach ourselves. We ignore it. It doesn't matter about our nationality when hospitals full of unarmed women and children were bombed and war crimes were being committed, and we sat cozy in our houses while watching it, them being slaughtered on TV, and still had the nerve to blame it on the people being killed. But
in the Hunger Games, who's competing?
The children.
Children.
Yeah.
The capital is taking your children from you and making you watch children live and die and kill each other on national television. And people are doing what?
Clapping.
Applauding for it.
Wait, what was I going to... Oh, I was going to talk... Me and Sadie were talking about this, too. This point in time, I just feel like so many people, including myself even, our childhoods are just being stripped away from
100%.
us because we feel the need to grow up and have a belief and have a say about everything. And it's sad.
Yeah.
Do you resent that?
What?
You resent that?
Oh, yes,
you feel like
100%.
I'm being made to grow
I
up?
wish I was still I was oblivious to these things.
Yeah, because I remember there was a time where I didn't have to have a say on everything. I didn't have to know statistics because I wasn't coming to class to argue. But now, every day I feel a need to put a wall up.
You can't put this in there, but even in my friend group that I have, I've just been feeling so distant because I know what they believe.
Yeah, 100%.
And I just I feel bad for them. They can't see the wrong.
I
of what
feel
they're
careful
doing.
of it in my friend groups too.
Yeah, and I think that's also even in teams where I'm forced to be around people like that, and I can't say my opinion because I'm outnumbered, but then I still do because who do you think I am? But then I've had people make up lies and tell my parents lies about what I had said to make me sound like I'm some awful, some, person that is trying to hurt others and just I am some I'm trying to attack anybody.
Yeah,
Nothing I said was an attacking way because I knew I was outnumbered by 30,000 that were in that room. So I wasn't going to say anything too obscene. But
yeah, and that really goes back to the Hunger Games. Just the fact that the kids were forced to just grow up, put your big girl pants on, get in that arena and just fight for your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we constantly ignore so many things that are happening right in front of us because genocide happens and so much and we don't even phase it. It doesn't phase us.
That's what I was originally angling toward is because you see these things on TV and if you're becoming numb to it, I don't know that we should ever become numb to human suffering, especially when it's it's televised in front of us. What kind of person can watch children carrying their sibling through the rubble of a city and not feel some and still say, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they deserved it.
I cannot stomach that.
Well, and also people, I've watched videos on TikTok of live videos of these people. They were outside of a hospital. And this is when the war crime of them bombing the hospital happened. They completely sat there and watched these people get blown and they're trying to run away while just you hear explosions and screaming and you see children being separated from parents. It is so disheartening to see. Yeah. And again, people have the audacity to just support a group just because they are closer in religion. They claim to be Christian. Yeah, you are not. This is not religion anymore. This is genocide. This is people dying. These are children that, honestly, too, you don't have a whole lot of say when you're born in what your religion is because you're kind of just born into it.
Yeah.
So
you have to decide. You have to do that and decide for yourself.
Yeah, when you're older and you have more individualism, but.
Plato teaches, ancient 2,000 years ago, Plato teaches that we're all kind of like this person who's born into a cave and we live in this cave and we think that's what reality is. It's dark. But you see all these shadows on the wall from this light, and you're like, oh yeah, that's love, and that's truth, and that's patriotism, and that's what America is. But if somebody could like undo the chain at your neck and let you look around, you'd see firelight behind you, and you would be like, oh no, I can't look at that. But after a while, your eyes would eventually adjust, and you come to see, wait a minute, that's just a fire. There's puppets. People have been doing a puppet show. That's not real America. That's not real patriotism. Yeah. And then you'd feel angered, and you'd be like, wait a minute, what am I doing with my time? So you kind of find your way up and out of this tunnel. And then when you get to the surface, a lot of kids in class are like, oh, well, then they'd see the truth of things. They've been in a cave. No. Because you get to the surface and you'd see bright daylight and it hurts again. So you retreat back into the tunnel for a while. And it's this back and forth process until you finally realize, oh, actually, none of these things are what I really thought I was looking at. Maybe my first dose of Christianity is, well, I thought that this was Christianity because this is what I've been raised around, this is what I've been told, and this is just what I thought I was looking at. Until you've actually been put into a position that makes you question, is that really how I should be living my life? And that's like Plato looking at the fire. And then eventually, well, I don't know. And then being led further and further out of the tunnel. I think a lot of it's just perspective.
Yeah, and
they've not had a chance to ask questions or be asked.
And like
questions.
in the Hunger Games, the Capitol doesn't know better. Almost, I feel like they're very unaware. Like they know, but I think they just don't understand.
Effie, she was
they don't understand how bad the thing is that's happening.
Right.
Yeah, like Effie, she had no idea the truth of what she was doing.
Because they're being told, they're being fed that, oh, it's good, it's good for Panem, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's to keep her society going. Which also, that's like, I think, saying that the natural instinct of society is always capitalism. That is not true whatsoever. You ask a child that's like 4 and you say, should everyone get the right to eat food? You should have that right to eat food. And they'll be like, yeah, let's share it. Like sharing, because we are taught sharing.
It's basic.
At such a young age.
I feel like it's basic human instinct.
Yeah, and like their instinct isn't, let me push ahead and get all of this to myself while my fellow kid beside me is starving. That's not their instinct.
It's taught.
All the bias and hatred and everything is absolutely learned.
Yeah.
And
another parallel, I think, to like us as a society is the way that people idolize snow. They were so wrapped up in this beautiful image that they were being painted because snow made it seem that snow made it that way for them. It's like the people of the Capitol, everything was given to them. They had it all, painted for them. And the Capitol didn't even realize how much of the problem they really were. Like, they were wrapped up in what snow did to make them feel good. And,
they were being fed good stuff.
Like what he said with the circus thing, like, the life was so good for them because, like, they followed him. So, like, it's just like that in our society because, like, he dehumanized the situation, and in our society, there's people who will idly and idolize and blindly follow people in the political areas and don't think to how what that person is doing affects other people because they're being made for them. Like the billionaires who paid to, get like endorsements and campaigns out there, those people that helped certain people get into office, they're going to make it easy for them and make them have a lot of, they're going to get that power right back to them because, they helped him. So it's like, it's just this like ally and partnership that they, like, the people don't even realize the gravity of what was going on because they were being,
Another thing, how are people so okay with the fact that there is a solid gold ballroom being built on the First Lady's side of our White House? How are we so okay with that? The fact that people are donating money to this, how are we not like, hey, guys, instead of doing this, which we really don't need, and it's kind of dumb, why don't we, since SNAPS is getting defunded, how about we put some money towards that?
Or, try to get everyone as a collective to figure out, fix the government shutdown because now it's been the longest government shutdown in
Let's
history.
put our focus on things that actually matter.
Yeah. Like also another parallel is the FEMA budget. They cut it down to it went down like $11 billion was taken from the FEMA budget, was cut from the Homeland Security grant program for pandemic-related reimbursements. So in the Hunger Games, they let people, and they let people in the scene freeze and die, They let them starve right in front of them, and they did nothing to help. Like in current times, poor and marginalized communities are the first to get hit by hurricanes. They're the first to get hit by those natural disasters, and they're the last to get aid and support. So we see so much more severe situation in those impoverished areas, like with Hurricane Katrina, and like in New Orleans and stuff, like they're the last ones to get that support. So, but then the people that are in the Capitol, they're made to live in luxury. So the people in the scene were left to die alone, and no one cared about those people. But the people at the Capitol watched the games and watched these children die, and they turned off the TV and moved on. Just like how these devastating floods happen and people are drowning, we turn off our TV and we move on from our lives because we are so emotionally detached because it didn't affect us.
I think that's the key word. It didn't affect us.
Yeah, it doesn't
so we
affect
don't
me, so it
care.
doesn't matter, and just the fact that it's the same scenario. The way that they, in the Hunger Games, when one more person dies, they just turned off that TV. When we watch, another building get destroyed, another part of society, another city,
group of people,
another it doesn't matter because they're a marginalized community. Let me turn off my TV.
Yeah, doesn't matter to me
because I don't want to see that. Let me turn on some cartoon that I want to see that's happy, and it's unrealistic.
They are so blind, but I think it's more of like a personal, I'm choosing to not pay attention. I'm choosing to be blind.
I'm choosing
when
to
it
be
comes to this.
completely blind to it.
Yeah.
And it is hard to want to accept that these bad things happen because I don't think it's a human instinct to want to expect bad and accept it. But once you accept it, you can be more, I think, intelligent to working through those matters. It's not necessarily, when you realize the world's not black and white, you can see a lot that happens in that gray area, and that teaches you so much about society. It makes you more an intelligent society. When it is all black and white, you don't have those gray matters. They teach you a lot, and when you don't have that, you have a very dumbed down society. And I would never consider America to be dumb.
You certainly wouldn't.
Yeah.
But saying that it's a black and white situation makes it very opposed. It's a situation that's immediately opposition. Black versus white, north versus south, man versus woman, left versus right. Keep them fighting. But gray area allows room for nuance. Man, the fatigue is real.
Yeah.
The fatigue is real. And you just talking about when is anybody going to say something about this? When is anybody going to do something about this? I would agree that for a while now, I've thought, at what point does it just snap the camel's back? At what point is one grievance too many? And apparently we've not hit that yet because it's one more thing.
At what point do we try to exercise our constitutional right to overthrow our oppressive, tyrannical leader?
Right? And that's
how much longer are we going to wait?
Our forefathers were geniuses. And they did build that into our founding documents that when in the course of human events it becomes intolerable, Lainie and Saydee, it is not only your right, it is your obligation. It is your responsibility as citizens to do something about it. But the word tyranny also has such gray area because people called Abraham Lincoln a tyrant. People called Obama a tyrant.
The complete definition for tyranny is a cruel and oppressive government or rule.
I agree.
Yeah, and I don't
that's the Oxford Dictionary.
The abuse of authoritarian power in a cruel and oppressive environment.
We love to also say that some presidents that are undeserving are the best presidents that we've ever had. Are we serious? We've had presidents I'd say George Washington. He kickstarted us. We have Abraham Lincoln who overthrown the civil rights movement. He did the Gettysburg Address. They did so many good things. We've had presidents who drug us out. FDR drug us out of the Great Depression. Obama.
But FDR was a socialist.
Oh, I know.
Heaven
and
forbid.
also,
Heaven forbid.
No, because I have done a lot of research, which we may have to cut this out. We don't know. But I've done a lot of research with Mandami. He just got elected.
The name is Mandami.
Oh my gosh! And I just love how I love the youth that he
for the
radiates.
people.
Yeah, I love the youth he radiates.
Truly.
But he is a democratic socialist, and I've never heard of that term until I've heard him talk about it. In which, honestly, I think it is a interesting, it's an interesting like concept.
I think it's something you have to be careful with.
Yes, because but then we have countries who are thriving in those, like Denmark, Sweden.
Yeah.
Those are some of the like most, I would say, safest, and we have that they thrive under that. It's just the idea that that you can work for what you get. But you also, they believe in universal health care, stuff like that. That's like should be for the people. And like also, it's just they put such a bad term on socialist and communism. They love to throw that word around, communism.
Yeah.
But we've never had a society that's fully communism.
No.
We've never had it. We've had extreme socialism, sure, but we've never had communism.
Also, Zoran Mamdani would not be a communist. That's not.
Yeah, but
is such a lie.
Extremists on both sides are just bad. And I feel like
and I think we're getting
if you have
close to
common
extremists.
sense, you can understand.
You saying we just got to be careful with it. I would say that with
exactly.
any leader in
There's
office,
drawbacks
with
to everything.
Any ism.
There's always going to be drawbacks because there's always going to be people abusing the system. But you know what? You have to be okay with that if the good is outweighing the bad. If the good that you are doing for your society is outweighing that bad.
And you also have a right to say, hey, that's not okay. And try your best to make a change about it.
Because I think the Founding Fathers would hate to see a bunch of people just be complacent.
Yes.
They would be angry because there's so many parallels to our leaders and like the king that they literally fought against. It's just so people died in the Revolutionary War to get us here, and we're just going to use that power to be like, if it happens,
Let's just run for a third term.
What's okay. Let's just break down everything that they worked hard for. Of course they weren't the best people alive because they did have some of them did believe in slavery and stuff, but you know what, at the end of the day they did stuff that would never be undone, which is the build of America.
Well, that's also our revolution is that every generation gets a chance to redo what the previous generation wasn't doing perfectly right.
Yeah, and
we're not looking back and saying everything about our forefathers was perfect. I think intellectually, socially, civically, they were geniuses. But for creatures of their time, they also were doing some things that we find very distasteful.
Yeah.
And then, in 30, 40, 60, 70 years, your great-grandkids are going to look back and think, oh, I can't believe that my great-grandma was okay with those kinds of things. That's revolution.
Yeah.
And that's the hope.
It's evolution.
That's
evolving.
like the hope aspect. And even in the Hunger Games, like just the fact that like she has all these people rallied around her and just like ready to defend her and ready to make their country better is just, it really just brings hope.
Yeah.
And I don't even know a better word.
Well, yeah. And speaking
that.
about hope, like I think if we talk about the hopelessness that is shown in Hunger Games, the tributes, I feel like Katniss at first, she was really hopeless. Like she wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to go and I'm going to try my hardest and I'm going to win this thing. That's not what she thought.
Right.
She was like, well, I'm ready for death. She was ready she said her final goodbyes with her family and she was like, well, this is it for me, but you know what? That's okay. And, I think that the helplessness that they felt is in parallel to like, you see how like a bunch of our high schoolers, they freshly graduated. They are coming from impoverished areas. I think White County is not the richest area. We have a lot of poor areas, and you see a lot of people like of our fellow classmates. They're just going to go to the Army because they can't afford to go to school. So they're going to go get ready to potentially die to escape poverty. The crippling student debt because they would never be able to pay for college on their own. And so in return, they're having to risk their life to see that they may be able to come back to go and, go to college. They don't know that. It's the the what if, maybe I can make it better for myself, and it's just it's all to make ends meet, and that's just so sad, which I think if you're going to go to the Army, like I so respect you, like I do. And it's just sad though to see people forced that feel like they have no other way because like they don't see any future for themselves because they don't have money. But then you have people sitting with billions.
It's like that song again, that Clearwater Revival song.
Yes.
Like you was like, there's plenty of money in the world. To say that there is not is to lie because that is not true. There's plenty.
All these rich and privileged kids getting to skip out on going to the military when we're in the song when they were in war, simply because of the amount of money that they had and they could do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's sad, and I think it's kind of like disheartening, but
at the same time, I have a lot of hope. Like especially just with all these protests that have been happening, just has given me such a strong sense of like we can do this. Like
And I agree with that. And also another place of hope has been seeing people coming up with new ideas. Like the constant innovation that people come up with is so like to see Mandami win, and he has that, he's a democratic socialist. That's something that we don't consider. Yeah. And again, socialism gets such a bad rap, but it did bring us out of the Great Depression. Yeah. It did bring us out of the Great Depression,
The thing I love about it, and I'm not a New Yorker, I have no dog in that fight, right? But the thing I like about him is that he's honest, and he answered questions without shying away from them. Yeah. Like so many politicians are just going to dance around and answer.
They're going to tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah. They're going to meander. And then you ask him a question and he was like immediately to the point. Bam. Yeah. Do this. No. Yeah. Bam, do this.
I saw him in he was on a talk show with I think they were asking him about a sort of wording that was on his website, where he said that, he's going to pay for better areas by, maybe giving a little more taxing to more white-based impoverished communities,
or even wealthy.
And he said that, and they're like, "Are you going to change your wording on that, because that could seem pretty? People can get angry with that." He's like, "No, because what I said is what I believe," and I really respected him for that, because when people start to be like, "Hey, I don't like what you said. I don't like how you worded that," because that offends me. So
good.
They start to back up and they're like, "Okay, well, that's not what I meant. Yeah, I'll go back and change that's what you want."
Yeah.
No, he was honest. He's like, "No, that's what I meant, and here's on the basis of how I meant it, and here's what I'm saying."
Dude, Americans love somebody who's going to tell it like it is. And whatever you think about politics, whatever I think, whatever Radio America thinks, I don't care. In 2016, that's what people were saying about Donald Trump. Well, he just tells it like it is. And whether we like it or not, that's what Americans said I like about him. I don't think it should be embraced that saying bad things about people is the noble thing. Yeah.
Also, it's funny saying that about a pathological liar who's lied on multiple occasions.
He says what he means because he knows he's lying.
But Americans, we do like people who are going to tell you what we believe, that we're going to say, the thing. You hate it if I stood up there and I just kind of gave you two sides of the same answer. Yeah. Well, blah, blah, blah. We don't want to waffle. We want to know. We want to tell it like it is. You can't be
two sides of the same coin.
Americans like that.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think it's very important. And Virginia also just had election with their governor.
Yep, that's right. And New Jersey.
Yeah, no. And it's like, I think it does give me hope to see people in new ideas. And I do like to see people who are more youthful, I guess, I think Mandami is very youthful in comparison to who he was running against. And I think that's just such a breath of fresh air, because we are so used to having people who are in politics that are very old and very based in what they aren't coming
up
with
white, very male.
They're not, and they're not coming up with anything new. And you're starting to see more diversity in it. Few elections ago, we just got our first black president, which first off, I think it was a little late for that, but and he did, I think he did a fine job at what he did. And Virginia got their first woman governor.
I'll say, we've still yet to have a women president.
Yeah, and which I think it'll come sooner than later, hopefully. But, and also
I have to believe it's going to come sooner or later.
Yeah, and which also I can't sit there and say, though, I want them to win because they're a woman.
No.
No, because that is just as much of a problem.
Right. And in 2008, when Obama won, yes, that was the landmark thing, is that he's the nation's first African-American president. But we didn't just vote for him as a country because of that. You voted for him because you like these answers and these policies better than. That should be the reason.
Yeah, like with Kennedy as well, first Jewish president, and...
Oh, Kennedy. No, he was Catholic.
Catholic, that's what I meant.
Yes. First Catholic president, which nowadays, I don't think that hits as hard as it did back in the 60s. Because people were like, I don't know if we should have a Catholic president, because technically the Pope could tell him what to think. And then the United States would be like, that was the fear. Yeah. Nobody's going to think that nowadays. Yeah. Nobody's going to think that nowadays.
Well, our Pope's from America, so that helps a little bit.
That's true.
Oh, I like that guy.
Yeah, he's chill. I like it.
Yeah, I was remembering the day that they were picking the new Pope, and I was like, I was highly invested in that.
I was utterly shocked.
I was like, oh my God, they picked the one that was from O-Block. That's crazy. I didn't expect that. You picked the one that's from the hood?
I kind of, which again, I'm not a Catholic. I don't have a dog in this fight.
Exactly.
But I kind of thought that they would pick the Filipino one. And I was like, come on. And then they announced that it was the American. And I thought, what?
The part that's just insane to me, that him and King Von have walked these same places. I don't know if you know who King Von is.
I don't.
You what?
I don't know who King Von is.
Like he wrote a song about Oak Block. He's a rapper. He's insane.
Okay,
like
is he black?
well, yeah, but
Okay.
no, but he's like no. This isn't a good guy I'm referencing because he killed a lot of people and he's crazy. But he died before he got like actually like, persecuted for any of the crimes he committed. But just the fact that like they actually picked a pope that's the same place as him, I'm just like, you know what? It's so unique and I like it. I really like the Pope too, that before him too.
I really like Pope Leo.
I know.
I really like Pope Leo. I think it would be so cool to meet Pope Leo. He seems like such a nice guy.
I know. And the fact he's American, I'm like,
and
okay.
Zoran Mamdani seems like such a good guy.
I know. And he rode the subway after winning the election, so everyone was taking photos. I'm like, he just seems so sweet. And like, I love
name is Momdani.
Mamdani.
Well, and also I just love the patriotism he brings. Like when he was talking, he at one point deliberately started speaking to Trump himself, like when during his like I just think it's so fresh and
Turn the
unique.
volume up.
Yeah, and like I love also his social media presence because I love a person that's going to be able to connect with the younger audience. Like like sometimes I just feel so disconnected from a lot of politicians. I'm like, I don't know you. You don't do anything to connect with the younger generation, and he does his part. Like,
all of these traits are so opposite of President Snow.
Exactly.
Absolutely opposite. I have a theory that not literally, but metaphorically, President Snow's like a vampire. Because what do vampires do? They are these creatures that persist in living a long, long, long time because they exploit the blood of youth. And what do vampires do? They drink blood.
They leech off others.
Life.
It just clocked.
And whenever, I think it's at the beginning of the second book, when Katniss sits down with him, he drinks from a glass of wine and she says that his breath smells like blood.
Yeah.
And isn't it because he's always like a little bit poisoning himself or whatever,
so
and
he can
it makes
drink
him
the
bleed.
same drinks as
And he's living off the
roses.
exploitation. Yeah,
The
that's
smell.
right.
Yeah.
He's living off the exploitation of children. He is a metaphorical kind of vampire, and he's Snow White.
Yeah, that's
like
how
he's drained of blood. He's pale.
Yeah. No. Yeah. There. And like also I do like that how the Hunger Games did with the use it like getting his backstory. I thought that was so unique.
I loved that.
I do like one thing about the Hunger Games is that you cannot say that this wasn't it had a generational run. Like and it still is a very influential book for like growing up. Like we had to read it, and which I wasn't forced to read. I read it before we read it, but
yeah, me too.
It is such a influential book that people always, talk about. When the newest movie came out, everyone was still going and watching it. They're coming up with ways to still be in, and it's always innovative. It's always new. Like they're coming up with a new Haymitch book in the movie.
Yeah, that's right.
And I love seeing the fan casting for it and getting to figure out who the actual casting is. That's one of my
Suzanne
favorite
Collins
parts.
only writes when she has something to say.
Exactly.
Is that real? Is that true?
That she said that, yes.
Oh.
She said, I will only write the Hunger Games, like a book, if I have something to say.
Dude, I love talking to smart people.
Me too.
So
It's a breath of fresh air.
I was actually going to use the Hunger Games as a point of reference after Thanksgiving, like the lesson I have to teach right
It's
after
so
Thanksgiving.
coded.
Was going to be, it really is. The whole cornucopia, the horn of plenty, and food and all of that. Well, I think Hunger Games. You talk about how you have a sense of hope, and Hunger Games is supposed to end with a hopeful kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
You know what gives me hope?
What?
You.
Me?
Don't flatter me. Oh my gosh.
It really does.
I'm blushing.
And again, don't anybody in Radio America try to cancel me. It doesn't matter. I probably only have 2 listeners to this show, and it's Coach Haston and my mom. So probably.
And Summer.
I'm just going to say that your group, your generation, is giving me a lot of hope. I have a first block of kids who are actively talking about things that you're bothered by in society, and you're not just sitting there willing to go along with it or repeat, echo, parrot, whatever. You don't want to just sit there on your phones and just stare at TikTok during class or any of that. Like you actually are loudly engaged. You are speaking your mind, and you all surprise me with your ideas for things, with your problems for things. You surprise me in a very good, positive way.
Yeah, and I think it's because, like, again, which we talk about having to grow up fast. And, like, I think that shows our intelligence level. Like, we've been forced to grow up, but you know what? That does give us, we have the experience and intelligence to
That's
talk
what I was
about
gonna
things.
say
That's why I like
before.
having parties in class.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that too. Pan 'em at circuses, as long as I keep throwing them parties.
We'll still like you as a teacher.
I know that it feels wrong to be robbed of some of your childhood when you feel like you have to always be prepared for an answer. But Katniss was also kind of robbed of her childhood.
Yeah, that's the biggest
and
thing.
Still had to be a revolutionary.
She was like 17 when she led the whole thing.
And which like with talking about like always like feeling the like always having an opinion on something and like, you know, and getting hopeful of our generation. I think like the way that she had sat there and she was going to execute Snow, you know, she could have had that ability to. Yeah. She had his life in her hands, but she knew. She knew what the other leader was going to do because it was just as bad as what Snow was going to do. Yeah. And like the realization of that potential bad, like it's so important. And I think, again, that's why it's such an important book to read.
She would have been perpetuating a cycle that she was already playing.
Yeah. And like, you know, cutting off a cycle is so important. And I think there's like one of the very important lessons of life I think that everyone needs to learn is that just because something has been a cycle does not mean it has to continue. It could end with you.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Like that's so important if it comes to like addictions or like, you know, family stuff or
violence, poverty,
you know,
addiction.
I think violence is just a big cycle and a lot of it stems from, you know, one act of violence upon another, but like it doesn't have to be. You can be that big person and break that cycle and decide, you know what, it's going to end with me. And I love that. Like I love that idea. I'm a big Colleen Hoover hate.
Me too.
I hate her. But
oh, really?
Yes.
I think not a real author.
No, her writing is not
She's
good.
A Wattpad
First
author.
off, yeah, her writing's not good. Second, she is not a good person. If you have heard anything about what she has done, she is not a good person.
I don't know anything about it.
So she wrote It Ends With Us. This is like a domestic violence, right? And It Ends With Us it's like about breaking the cycle of it being like, you know, it ends with us. It's like the point of it. But
okay.
Yeah. So like she was in a domestic violence cycle and she was like, you know what? I'm not going to put this upon my daughter. It's going to end with us. Like I'm cutting this off, which is a good message. But the fact that she, you know, continued to make a nail kill line based upon the book is kind of crazy. But I think she's a little tone deaf. And also like that book has a lot of themes of like, you know, domestic violence and like rape and stuff. And then her son went and raped somebody and then she defended him. So that's why I really don't like her. Yeah, it's always the good ones, but you know,
it's always the good.
Like I just don't. And also, I think her writing's kind of cheap.
Well, doesn't that kind of fit in with this endpoint here that you know you idolize these things, and yet you're forced to grow up and realize that they weren't the idols that you thought they were, and that being forced to have to grow up. And I know it's exhausting. I know that it's like my friend group doesn't agree with me, or I don't want to always have to have an answer to why I believe a certain way.
Yeah,
but you are now prepared. You've been forced to think, and you do have this better vision than a lot of others do. To stay a child forever, I don't know, it may be blissful in some ways, but it also makes you
blissful.
Yeah, it makes you a tool for other people.
Yeah, people can take control
blissful
and manipulate
ignorance.
Yeah, people love it and the idea of it, but like at the end of the day, it's not stopping the bad, it's just ignoring the bad. And that's just as problematic. I like getting to talk about things that are happening in our like what's happening currently because it gives me a lot to go off of. But I also, though, you know, like don't want to just be another person in the podcast stating my political belief. You know, I'm not Joe Rogan. I'm just gonna like do something like.
I don't think anybody's ever gonna confuse my show for Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Hope not. 3 monthly viewers.
Not. But yeah, so like if you can compare it to literature, it makes it.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to finish saying before I turn it off?
Love you guys.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening to our rant.
Everybody say Mum Donnie. Spell it.
Wait, I gotta sing it. Okay. The name is Mum Donnie. M-A-M-D-A-N-I.
The name is Mum Donnie. M-A-M-D-A-N-I.
Such vibe. I love it.
With Honors is a Free Zone radio production, produced here in Sparta, Tennessee. You can find more of our shows here on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to great content. Check out our new show, Second Stage, premiering this season, as well as our brother podcast, A Dead Man's Books and Haston Curation.
Hey everyone, my name is Drew, and I want to talk to you about my show, A Dead Man's Books. The show was created with the mindset of whenever I pass away, as morbidly as that sounds, that my children would inherit my books, and of all the things that I'm going to pass down to them, I think that that's the one thing that I want them to make sure that they keep and go through on their own time. But I want to be there next to them whenever they read these things. And so I created a podcast so that they could go back and listen to me and my friends and other people as we read through these books and what we had to think about it. But it's grown to so much more. We've got authors we interview. We talk about everyday life. We talk about how literature connects to life. All of those things in one place. And now we want you to come along with us and join us. This is a podcast not just for my kids, but for everyone who loves to read, everyone who loves a good story, everyone who's a parent, everyone who's a teacher, everyone who just enjoys literature. This is a place to come. So come join us every Monday on A Dead Man's Books.